right. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order, and I got to. Due to the current federal and state emergency declarations, a Minnesota directive to residents to stay at home and guidance with limiting person-to-person contact due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting of the Albert Lea Area School Board is being conducted in accordance with Minnesota Statutes 13D.021, meetings by telephone or other electronic means. Due to the health pandemic, the school board determined that it is not feasible for at least one board member, the superintendent, or the school district's legal counsel to be physically present at the regular meeting location, that it is not foreseeable for the public to attend this meeting at the regular meeting location due to the health pandemic. Persons may monitor this meeting from a remote location by visiting the Albert Lea Area School YouTube channel. School board members are reminded to mute their microphone or phone when they are not speaking. School board members wishing to speak should raise their hand and be recognized by the chair. The chair will determine the order in which school board members wishing to speak will be recognized. When recognized, the board member should unmute the microphone or phone, speak, and then mute their device. All votes will be conducted by roll call. Each school board member should wait until their name is called before voting. Okay, I would like to open up then with the Truth and Taxation hearing tonight. Jennifer Walls.
All right, well, this shouldn't take too long. There's really virtually no new information, but it is a required meeting. Me? Okay. We are required as part of this meeting to discuss the district budget and obviously the 2020 pay 2021 property tax levy. And as always, I've got pictures in here of things that have happened this year. This picture happens to be one of the things that I'm most proud of, which was our Thanksgiving holiday meal distribution. So we're going to start by talking about this year's preliminary budget. We do plan to bring a revised budget before the board in February, and there will be some changes primarily because of COVID funds. But when we look at our revenue budget, we get by far the vast majority of our aid comes from the state. Only about 11% is local levy. And then you see about 4% federal. That is the percent that will probably go up in the revised budget because of the COVID funds that we are receiving. And then just a small percentage is from other sources. You've all seen this graph before, but it indicates what has happened to our state funding, especially in the general education formula, since 2003. And we've talked about this in the past, that formula, those increases have not kept pace with inflation. This is an updated graph that they just released not too long ago. But the difference between what we're currently receiving per pupil and what it would be if inflation had been factored in is $503 per pupil unit, and that would be about a $1.9 million difference for us this year if we were getting the amount adjusted for inflation. And then when we look at our expenditure budget, as is true of every district I've been in or any district I've ever talked to, about 80% is for payroll and benefits. So when we look at making cuts either for this year or potentially into the future, there just aren't a lot of areas, and obviously we don't like to look at salaries and benefits, but there just aren't a lot of other areas that are available to us when we look about making budget adjustments. Factors that will impact our revised 2021 budget: enrollment. We are still very closely tracking enrollment. We are down some students from last year, certainly nowhere near the number of students that we're hearing from other districts. but that will, in all likelihood, be an adjustment. And then on the positive side, COVID-related grants and the expenditures that go along with those. We've received about $1.7 million in COVID-related funds. So now moving on to the levy, there is no change from the proposed levy since our question on the ballot did not pass. The levy remained exactly the same as what you saw in September. As a reminder, there are three parts to the levy: the general fund, the community service fund, and the debt service fund. In the general fund, the levies that are distributed on the referendum market value, and all properties share equally on the referendum market value. You can see local optional revenue, voter approved operating levy, equity revenue and transition revenue, and then there are always adjustments for prior year actuals. So that's about $3.4 million of levies that are distributed on the referendum market value. And then we have the net tax capacity, and under the net tax capacity, properties are assigned different rates depending on if it's ag land, commercial land, residential land. And then these are the levies that are distributed on the net tax capacity, the largest of which is long-term facilities maintenance. Again, you can see there were some prior year adjustments, so the total of this portion of the general fund levy is $2.595 million. Then we move on to the community service. This is a relatively small part of the levy. Basic community education. That amount is based on a census, and so when the new census numbers comes out, this will probably be adjusted somewhat. Early childhood family education and home visiting. And again, some minor adjustments, so that portion of the levy comes to about $235,000. And then we move on to debt service and Opeb debt service. Now, Opeb debt service is still up there, but actually that fell off this year as part of our levy. So we no longer have the Opeb debt service. That final payment was on last year's levy. So we have our anticipated bond payments, plus they always add 5%. Our LTFM, or facilities bond that we have, again, they add 5%. And then, again, some minor adjustments based on prior year. So that portion of the levy is $2.847 million. Just a reminder, the Ag to School bond credit, this was an advantage this year because we dropped off the Opeb bond and backfilled with the high school or the Hammerfield and Halverson bond. Those portions of a debt service do qualify for the Ag to School credit. So for 2021, that is 60% for ag land. That will increase by 5% each of the next 2 years until we get to 2023, and that will max out at 70%. This is in law, so the legislature would have to vote to repeal it for this to go away, but this is certainly something very nice for our ag land owners in our district. And then again, this is another chart that you've seen, but for a property valued at $100,000, which we're told by the county is the average for residential homes in our district, the amount that is school district tax has changed very little since 2014. So this is actually what I will be asking you to approve. You can see the last year's levy, the 2019 pay 2020. The next column is the levy that we need to approve this evening, and the difference between those. You can see there that the Opeb debt service came off completely. So it is a $105,000 increase for a total of $9,089,709.73. I've only had one phone call from any of our constituents. wondering about her increase of taxes, but as it turned out, her property value had increased by $21,000, so that's really what accounted for the increases that she saw in all of her city, county, and school district tax. That's the only comment or phone call I've received.
Are there any questions? I think, Jill, did you raise your hand earlier? Did I catch it or not? Any questions by anybody?
I think Jill is talking.
Oh, okay.
Just because there was some feedback at the beginning.
By anybody? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you now.
I think there's some delay. Can you hear me now? And then, just for transparency, we did have a little bit of we had a question of whether there needed to be an approval of the agenda, and it was in chat, but just because of some transparency in government, we probably just for transparency, we did have a little bit of we had a question of whether there needed to be an approval of the agenda, and it was in chat, but just because of transparency in government, we probably shouldn't be in chat. We should just, correct? The approval of the agenda, and it was in chat, but just because of transparency in government, we probably shouldn't be.
Yeah, we are getting some feedback. Yeah, the agenda will be approved when we get to that point of it. The Truth and Taxation meeting was on its own.
That was my fault, I was just trying to easily ask a question, so I won't do it again.
Any other questions or thoughts? I don't know if you caught any of that. We do have some feedback going on. Okay. Hearing none, then we will move to the scheduled study session meeting tonight with approval of tonight's agenda. Thanks, Jennifer. Look for a motion to approve the agenda, and again, everything is roll call, so we'll look for a motion in a second. Neil moves.
I'll second.
Kim seconds. Okay, any discussion on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, let's do roll call. Angie?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Kenny?
Aye.
All right, and I. Okay. Agenda approved. Action items. First one is the approval of the 2020 pay 2021 final levy. Look for a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Neil moves it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Kim will second it. Now we'll open it up for discussion for the final levy for approval of 2020 pay 2021 final levy. Any discussion?
This is Angie. Good, no feedback, it sounds like, good, okay.
Go ahead, Angie.
I just had a question, so we just got our, what they think our taxes are going to be coming up, the proposed tax, what our taxes are gonna be, is this, that had this on there, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, that's what I thought, I was just double checking on that, thank you.
Jill?
Yes, since this is levying at the maximum amount, I will not be voting in favor.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or? Okay, hearing none, I'll look for, we'll do a roll call vote for approval of the 2020 pay 2021 final levy. Ken?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Jill?
No.
Dennis? Angie?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
And I would pass 6-1. Okay, 3.2 is the MSHSL Foundation Grant Form A. Yeah, come on up, Paul. Paul Durbon, Activities Director.
All right, hi everybody. So this one's pretty straightforward, just asking for a board resolution for supporting a grant application to the Minnesota State High School League. This is a Form A grant. They do Form A and Form B. I believe Form B is in February, a little bit later in the year. This grant, basically they ask for our free and reduced lunch rates, and if we qualify, we get funds distributed. They take a pool of money and split it up evenly amongst all the schools that applied. And its intent, somewhat ironically, is to help schools and communities pay for activity fees. So it's the money I think we could use and our community could use, certainly. So I'm looking for board to sign a resolution on that.
So I look for a motion to approve the foundation grant Form A.
I'll move to approve.
Okay. Kim approved, Neil second. Any discussion now at this point? Dennis?
How does that affect, depending on our decision later with the State High School League fee discussion? Will we be pushed out if we don't follow through on it? Or since we're talking on both issues tonight, I just want to make sure there's no conflicting issues with it.
Good, thank you. Go ahead.
So my understanding is we'd have to be members, obviously, to receive the grant, the State High School League. And again, I think our districts looked into that situation and whether we would still be considered members or not, and where our stance would be, but leave that to the board to discuss later. So it's something to be aware of. You know, these funds go directly, the intent is to go directly to your family's fees that we impose in the district. So we'd have to use them in some manner related to that. So they probably wouldn't be used to pay, say, a membership fee as a school to the league in that regard.
But again, we need to be in good standing, that's correct? Okay. Go ahead, Neil.
We have, currently are engaged in a policy where students pay, families pay what they can. So is that a factor in the high school league offering grants, or people can pay zero? How is that? Is there any kind of a connection between those, our current policy and the application of this grant?
So your question is, if our fee structure is enabling families to choose $0, does that have any impact on our ability to receive the grant?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so the volume, I mean, the amount that we would likely receive is probably in the ballpark of $1,000 to $2,000. When the number of, or the amount that we're probably losing in fees when we have our new system is much greater than that. So I think those funds could probably go to the loss in fees that we don't collect for that reason, because it's the same intent, right?
So again, that's it's in that neighborhood of 1,000 to 2,000 as we get from the foundation A or whatever.
Traditionally, from memory, it's based on how many schools apply, and they divvy it up accordingly.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks. Any other questions at all? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Neil?
Yes.
Angie?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
Kenny?
Yes.
And aye for me, 7-0 passage. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to number 4, which is a discussion on the MSHSL fees. And I just was given, we did receive a new invoice dated on 11/30/2020, asking for installment number 1 by 12/31 of 2020 for $4,500, and installment number 2 due 2/28 of 21 for another $4,500. So A total of $9,000 is from the State High School League. Is billing. It says on the bottom, it's interesting, it says member schools may choose to pay both installments by the end of the year because of that COVID grant, I would guess, is what they're referring to. What's that, sorry? This year. End of this year, 2020. 12/31/2020. So I'd like to open that up to this. I guess there isn't, no, it's not an action item, so this is part of our study session, so I'll just open it up right away to discussion. Kenny?
So this is, 4,500 above what we paid for a regular fee, correct?
Correct, 2 times it, yes.
And did we receive any explanation from them at all on the questions that we had sent?
Not at this time.
Well, then I guess I would be in favor of just ignoring it.
Okay?
I went on the, sorry.
Yep, go ahead, Kim, sorry.
I went on the Minnesota State High School League website and went into some meeting minutes and went into their last meeting or their gathering, I guess. They really didn't call it a meeting. And this wasn't talked about at all in that board meeting. And I looked for the FAQ. That was something that they were going to give out. They identified during those listening sessions that there were way more questions than they had time to answer online, so that they would offer an FAQ. And I couldn't find it anywhere on the website. I went through the newsletter. I went through meeting minutes from October. I just didn't really see that they addressed this at all and that there is concern around the state for it. So I don't know that I'm just concerned that they just feel like we're gonna just pay it because and it'll go away, you know. So it's really I want to be clear that it's 3 times what we normally pay. What we'll pay for this school year? Is that correct?
Correct. Any other comments or discussion?
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, Neil.
Well, the high school league is, it consists of its members. I mean, it's like we the people, and there's every member has representation. This is a board of directors. And I'm not sure where those directors come from, but I'm assuming they come from member schools. Is that correct?
There's appointed from different organizations, the governor.
So from
yes.
whom are these directives given? Is it the executive branch or the executives of the high school league, or is it the board of directors? Or where is this coming from? And to whom do we appeal? If you appeal to the executive branch of this organization, I don't see how we can be canceled as members when the members are the ones that are supposedly in charge of making decisions. I mean, we can't be just summarily denied membership, I wouldn't think.
And so I can speak to some of those concerns. So the High School League established a financial advisory task force, and the recommendation came to a board meeting to just come up with a new fee structure. And since then, there's been a lot of feedback and kickback from member schools and concern, asking for clarity. I understand where Kim mentioned there hasn't been the follow-up that was promised from a few other meetings that we've been engaged in. And the task force put these fee structures together. Since then, the task force has also approved a motion with the board of directors at the high school league to receive some funds from foundation money, the grant that we actually just approved to apply for. And the money that came from that is only going to the smallest schools, and it wouldn't impact our class or classification based on our enrollment. And so whether that was strategic or not, didn't impact Albert Lee in that relief that was recently provided for schools that were in a similar position as us. So, but it has gone through the board of directors. If we had, we could reach out to board members, which I think our district has sent letters to all board of directors in the high school league. I've spoken with fellow ADs that are also on the board or on different committees with the high school league, and so those are our avenues to work with the league.
Kim.
That was going to be my next question. In the minutes, I saw that they are taking funds from the foundation, and Paul, it was hard to hear you. That does not include Albert Lee. We're not in one of those classes, right?
No.
It was single A and double A, correct?
Correct, and we would be classified as AAA in the enrollment category.
Dennis.
I'm just concerned too that, we've had these discussions, they talk about the financial status and asking for more money, but they've still shown us nothing what they've done to contain or limit costs. What have they done with their staffing? I think the last time I looked, there was it 6, 7 at our six-digit figures that they're earning? I'm just not seeing enough information to warrant us giving them extra money when they have not done anything to contain their costs.
Correct. Ken?
Do we need a motion not to pay it?
Well, we don't have it as part of the study session. We didn't set it up as an action item. I think we've got at least till our next board meeting on the 21st to decide yes or no. I'm definitely getting the vibe here that it's a no until we get some questions answered. I think one of the interesting things is there's not an appeal process, as Neil brought up too, to which direction you go. And then if you are just a member school, how do they just exercise you? So, Jill.
I think accountability is a two-way street, and if they want us to be accountable to pay $9,000 extra, they really do need to be accountable in sharing with us some of their fiscal changes that they've made.
Do we have anything more, Mike, from legal at all? No other opinions? Did we send a letter to him directly? Okay. Kim.
I do want to express, though, or ask the question. So if let's just hypothetically say in our December business meeting that we decide we make a vote to not pay the fees, what's the ramifications there and how does that affect students?
According to the legal analysis conducted by Kevin Rupp's firm, we have paid our annual fee, and we are allowed to remain in the state high school league because we have paid the annual fee. There's nothing in their bylaws anywhere that allows them to just suddenly decide to charge additional fees and hold districts responsible for paying those fees. Basically, there's nothing in their bylaws that says, A, they can charge us these additional fees, and B, remove us from the high school league because we've already paid our annual fee. So that's where we are at, and so they would be in violation of their own bylaws if that were the case.
Yeah, Neil.
Yeah, I studied that too, and it seems to me that the word fee is never even mentioned. We pay dues, and we paid our dues. So we are members in good standing.
Yep. Any other final thoughts? I'm sure we'll put on the agenda on the 21st to have it'll be an action item there to have a vote. Guess it'll give us one more chance to look again if we want to research the MSHSL. Paul, if you have any updates, send it out and just see where they're at. Anything else? Okay.
I don't wanna create the impression that we're being just really unreasonable and hard-nosed about this. If they're desperate and they do provide a very excellent service, nobody's gonna argue that. But I just need a little bit more evidence that they are in more dire straits than all the districts from whom they're trying to get additional funds to support whatever it is their need. I'm just not convinced that there is, they haven't done that yet.
I know from, Paul, when you sent out, or I saw somewhere their, financial statement for the year, it looks like an awful lot of restricted funds at MSHSL, along with the salaries. In other words, benefits, things that they've locked into their fee structure that it's just like we see our 80% here too. Of course, I understand that, but, and, maybe they even have a higher amount of need for that, but, that's where I think they're running into a lot of problems, and they're not really looking for additional revenue sources that I've seen either. So, any other comments or thoughts? Again, like I said, on the 21st, we will put that as an action item. Seeing none, just a couple things. Thanks for everybody coming tonight online. Aaron, Esther, thank you for being here also. And we will see you on December 21st at 5 p.m. right here in the, probably a Zoom meeting again. It'll be a Zoom meeting again. So, meeting's adjourned.